Okay, so we're gonna get going with the rig. So like I said, we're gonna be using this one. I just loaded the model that we're gonna be providing, and we're gonna start with the basic structure, which is basically neck, head joint, and the jaw joints. Nothing else really for the time being. Yeah, before we get started with any joint placement, so we have to think about the anatomy a little bit. So I'm just gonna go to the side view. It's always useful, especially on a more realistic character, to think about the anatomy underneath, so you know where to place the joint. So in this case, we're just gonna do like a quick kind of drawing of how the skeleton will be under this model, roughly kind of like this. We have something like this. It has to be, it doesn't have to be like super accurate, but it's more like a rough representation. And then if we think about like the jaw, roughly where it's gonna be sitting, so we have something like this. And then thinking about the vertebrae, so it's gonna be something like this. So this is what we have. The two most important points that we care here is about the head joint and the jaw joint. So as a rule of thumb for the head joint, has to be where the vertebrae meets the base of the skull. So it's roughly gonna be somewhere around here. So normally that pivot point could be like behind the ears. It's almost as if you draw like a line from one side of the neck to the other. And then we can have like we don't need too many joints, but we can have something like something there and something there, something like this. And for the jaw pivot, especially like I said on realistic models, is gonna be around this. Again, like a point of reference. If you touch your own face, just like in front of like this point on your ear, and then if you open the jaw, you will feel the skeleton underneath moving as you open the jaw. So it's a good placement to have it like roughly there, and that's where we can put the joints. So, and with that already there, what we can do is go to rigging, skeleton, create joints, and we're literally gonna be like clicking there, and then we click there, and then there. Let's just show them. So that's where we have them, and then roughly there, and then we're always gonna put like a final joint in there. This is mainly so we kind of have like a representation of it. Some people prefer to not have any kind of final joint, because those are never gonna be used, but it's mainly so Maya draws this line. Now we press the down key to go back to this joint, actually the up key, sorry, to go up the hierarchy. So if you go up and you go down, so we go up to go back to that one, because here we want to place the jaw, so we're gonna place it roughly there, and then again we just put like a tip joint in there, and that's where our skeleton is gonna be. So let me just select all these and put like a even two, something like this. And obviously I think I moved somehow, so I'm just gonna delete this, because now it doesn't really matter anyway. And okay, so that's how we have it. So now we're gonna be just renaming, so just call it neck 0 joint, neck 1, neck 2, and then this is C head joint, and then let's just call all the tip joints tip. So for example, here is jaw, and then this one is jaw tip. Oops. Okay, so that's it. So, and we save. Just be careful and always kind of save as soon as you have something, just in case. So yeah, that's it. So now we're gonna be quickly always check. Obviously, if you know that the joints are gonna be in the middle, you can draw them on the side view, and you can always draw them on the side view, and then if anything, you can always move them a little bit, but obviously we want them in the middle. So that's it. So that's fine. Also, like, check that the orientations are gonna be correct. So we always want, in this case, we're gonna use X pointing down, and then just make sure that Y up is consistent and it didn't kind of move the other way. So basically, when we select all these joints, we have them rotating in the same direction. And then again here we have X pointing, so that's all good. So for the now before skinning, we're gonna create the controls. So for that, we're just gonna be using simple shapes. So we're gonna go to nerves primitives and create a circle, or we can create squares, that's fine, but let's just create actually, let's do one thing. Let's create a circle and a square. Oh, actually, square may not be great because it has like all these four. So let's just stick to circles, and we just group it. So literally, it's gonna be at the origin and with another group. So, and let's for now just give it like a generic name, control group, and then control CTL. You always want, when having controls, you always want like at least one group on top, because whenever you move it and you place it, you want all the information of where it is to be stored in that group and have this control 0 out. So when you use it, and then if you move the control and move the rig, you always want to, like, when you set 0, it goes back to where it should be. So that's why we create this group on top. So yeah, we're gonna be using these just simple sphere circles. You could always, if you install Comet, you could always use in the shapes, you have more variety of shapes, or maybe you have your own tool set that you downloaded where you can create like a bigger variety of controls. I just want to stick to what Maya gives, and we're just gonna be, we can still reshape it and make nice shapes of it. So if you select the control and right click control vertex, we can still move these control points and shape it into something else. So we're gonna be using eventually, but for now let's just keep that. And we're gonna always keep this control because it's gonna be useful to just duplicate it to create the control. So we're gonna create one control per neck, joint, and the head and the jaw. So we're gonna duplicate it 5 times. So 1. Actually, let's just duplicate it this first time, and we'll call it neck 0 group and neck 0 control, and then duplicate it a couple of times because that's gonna be the 1. And then this is gonna be neck 2. Neck 2. Okay. And then we duplicate it once again, and that's gonna be the head group and the head CTL. And now we have the jaw and jaw control. Okay, so now we have, obviously, that all of them at the origin. let's call this layer model layer, so we can hide the model for the time being. So now what we want to do is place all these controls where they should be. So for that, let's just select one joint and then the group. Remember, we want to do it on the group, and then let's do a constraint parent maintain offset. It's just gonna be like a temporary placement, so we just want it to be snapped in there and making sure that we have the orientation and the position correct. So we do the same for all of them. So we do this one. Now we can just press G and it will redo the same type of constraint, and then we select the neck and we delete it again. We just want to snap it, so that's all we want to do. And head, same, and we delete it, and now the jaw, and that's done. Cool. Obviously, let's hide this one because it may get distracting. So now we want to shape them a bit, so let's just disable the possibility of selecting joints and geometry, because we want to select all these, and go to component mode, select all these, and obviously you see if we have that, it's gonna rotate the shapes in a bad way. So we go to the tool settings and we set it to object. So now it's just doing this, because that's all what we want to do, is to have this control perpendicular to the joint. So, and now what we do is press J, and that enables the step, and now we can just rotate in 15 degrees increment, and now like we basically rotated like 90 degrees. And now the other thing we want to do is we want to scale it so it's actually visible. And again, the scale, you want to have it on the object, because what happens if you don't have it on the object is that if you have the scale on default, it's just gonna scale in this bad way. So we want it in object, because all we want to do is like literally make each one of them individually a bit bigger. So we have that. So now what we can do is just go in, like tweak them. So this one is a bit bigger. This one, if anything, this one could be left as it is. This one, maybe, well, this one should be fine. And then this one, let's make it bigger. And we can move it slightly, because remember, we're just tweaking the shape. And so it is a bit more prominent. We're just gonna shape it slightly different. So we're just gonna move it like this. And now it's a bit more clear that this one is gonna be a different type of control. And now we're gonna do the same for the jaw. We're just gonna shape it. So for the jaw, maybe it's gonna be more than enough to just scale it in a way that we show this. So I think that should be enough. So we go back to the object mode. So now we have these controls, and now what we're going to be doing is tweaking the colors. So again, save, and we select the control. We go to the attribute editor, and on the shape we go to object display, drawing overrides, enable override, and then we go, let's go to like a green color. So you have to just move around until you get, so actually maybe this one is better, so it's not like too harsh. And this one, we're gonna go for like a yellow, this one yellow, and this one again, and yellow. This one again, we'll go for the green. Actually, we passed it. It's this one. And then this one again, we can go for the yellow. Cool, so that's the controls created. Now we're just gonna be parenting. So what we want to do is have the same kind of hierarchy as we have on the joints. So what we do is we select the jaw group and we want it under the head control, and we press P, and then the head group under the neck 2 joint, and we press P, the neck group, the neck 2 group under neck 1, and we press P, which means parenting, and then the neck 1 group under 0 control, and we press P. So now, as you can see, we can just move around. And now what we have to do is select the control, this time the control. So I'm gonna show all these so it's clear. Control and then shift select the joint. Actually, I just need to enable again to be able to select the joint. So select the control and the joint. You can do it on the outliner. I'm just doing on the viewport because it's a bit more in front of me. And constrain parent. So in this case, it shouldn't matter if we do it maintaining offset or not, because we actually snap the control to the joint, so there shouldn't be any difference. So it's a good exercise, but just take into account if you're snapping the control to the joint and all of a sudden the joint kind of moves or rotates or goes somewhere else, is because you did it without maintaining offset, but also because there's something wrong, because there shouldn't be any difference, because we literally snap the group on top to the joint, so the control is actually where the joint is. So when doing this constraint, there shouldn't be any shifting or movement. So we go one by one, apply, apply, and then apply. Cool, so that's it. We save again, and now as you can see, the control move the joints. So what I'm going to be doing now is just before finishing with this video, because on the next video we're going to be moving to the skinning, so it's a good practice. So first of all, let's just for now hide everything except the head. That's what we want to skin for the time being. So it helps you while skinning. What we're going to be doing is a simple animation with different poses. So what we're going to be doing is going 0 here and then to like something like this, and we select all these joints and we do like a key pressing S. We have a key every like 10 frames, something like this. 70, 80, 90, 100, 10, 20. So now obviously I have the auto key on, so as soon as I move anything it's gonna create another key. So let's just kind of go and rotate like 12 degrees and then -12, and then we back to neutral, and then on this one we just go back like another 12 or something, -12.5, and then we're just gonna twist -8, 8, and then back to neutral. And now we're just gonna be, that's back to neutral. So here on 100, actually let's just put some keys, and then here we're gonna be cleaning up and just getting rid of some channels that we're not gonna be using. Normally on the jaw, apart from rotating from a certain point, it's gonna move a little bit, but we're not gonna go into that. What we're gonna be doing is we're going to be leaving translation and rotation free, so it can be tweaked a bit more. The scale is going to be locked eventually, so we'll just do that later on. But we're just going to leave it like that. So what we're going to be doing is for the jaw open pose, we're just going to be rotating a little bit. So we're going to rotate like 17 or yeah, something like this. And then like from this point on, just gonna move it slightly, and that's kind of what will happen. So it will rotate a little bit, and then from a certain point it's gonna move a tiny bit. It's just an approximation, but just so you know it happens, and it's to check our skinning actually. Okay, so now that we have the skeleton and the controls, everything connected, we're gonna go into creating the skin cluster and skinning these main joints for the time being. So we're gonna be selecting from all the joints, obviously just the main ones. We don't care about the tip joints. And we're gonna select the geometry. For now, like I said, we're just gonna be focusing on the head geometry. And we go to skin, bind skin, but let's go to the options and let's go reset, because obviously I may have something different. The first thing we want to change is, instead of hierarchy, to selected joints. Otherwise it's gonna ignore basically what we selected and just add everything on the hierarchy. So basically that way you will only need to select the neck and then it will select everything. Everything else we're gonna leave as it is, because we also want this rig to be able to run into a game engine. It should be fine as it is, but we have to be mindful of the max influences. But obviously we're not gonna be allowing us for that to be an issue. But just so you know, 5 should be enough for a game engine. But obviously, and if you're not rigging for a game engine, you don't care about that, so you cannot check that. But we're just gonna keep it for the time being, even though it should be fine, but we'll just keep it at 5. That's fine, that's more than enough, and it doesn't quite matter. So closest distance, all of that is gonna be fine, because to be honest, we just want to create the skin cluster. The default skin in Maya does, even if you select heat map or geodesic voxel, is not gonna be great anyway, so we might as well just bind skin, and that's it. And now obviously we're gonna have something, so it moves, and it may look fine, but the thing is, if anything, it's too soft, and as you can see, so we move the jaw and it's literally deforming everything. So what we're gonna do is, so we go here and we're just gonna float everything to the first joint. And again, you may have your own tools. Like you can see, I have NG skin tools here. You may have your own skinning tools. If you have them, by all means use them, especially if you've used them before. But we're not gonna be using any of that. I just want to show what Maya provides without expecting you to have this plugin or that tool. So we're just gonna use what Maya does, even though for skinning it's not great. So we'll go to the right view, and then with the neck one, so we're gonna float to like 1 everything. So oops, sorry. We just press B to make this bigger. So with B pressed and the left mouse, we can make this brush bigger, and we're just gonna paint actually just like this. And that's just mainly as a guidance, if anything. So let's just we can paint one side and then we can just mirror. So for now, let's just stick with that. And then neck 2. Obviously this eventually will have to be the jaw, but don't worry about that. Let's just do it like this for the time being. And then we'll just put the head with all these. So we're just doing like essentially big strokes, and then just like painting roughly everything. So now we can go a bit more in detail. Obviously we want the whole ear to be with the head. and then something like this. And then for the jaw, so let's just do skin mirror. Let's check the options, and plane Z and Y, closest component 1-to-1, closest joint. So just make sure that you do it like this, so you can check the options I have, and then mirror, and that should be fine. So now we have both sides. Obviously we want to paint all these inside, so let's just paint it. We don't need to mirror again, we'll just paint all these. So we have that, oops. So we have this, so I don't see any. Okay, so it should be all fine. Okay, the nose. And obviously we have to paint most of the, if not all the gums. Let's for now go inside the gums and just paint everything to the head, including bits of the jaw. We'll just paint them to the jaw later on. Okay. So that's all we've done. We just painted the head a bit more. So let's just check. Obviously there is still some stuff on the neck, 0. So what we do is we just paint it a bit more in there. All these, and then this area for the neck 2. Okay, so we do a mirror again, skin mirror, and then we save again just in case. And now what we're going to be doing for the jaw is just, you can just select like one middle edge, control right click to vertices, and then shift, and the bigger than is roughly next to the shift is the bigger than key, and then we kind of get all these, and then we go to paint, and then we put it to the jaw, and then we paint it into the jaw, and obviously we want a bit more, so we just want at least all that to be under the jaw influence. So we just paint this half, and then we go again to skin mirror. And now if we check, so we save again, and now if we move the animation, obviously there's still some bits and pieces. So we paint this to the head and to the head. So now we don't have anything weird still influenced by the neck, so we have everything kind of what it should be. Okay, cool. So we have that, and now, as I was saying, let's just hide this so we only see the joints and the mesh. Obviously you can see it's not great, but at least it's moving. So what we want to do is like go to different poses and start smoothing. So what we have to do, like I said, if you're using some other tools, it's less of a problem, but obviously using magic skinning, you have to be careful. And when you're smoothing, try to just keep the two that you want to smooth, so it kind of smooths between the two, and then you can just go here and start smoothing a little bit. And again, we can do just the one side, so you start smoothing there, and we can use these colors to see a bit more, and then we can just check, lock neck 1 and then unlock neck 2, so we can smooth between these two. And now what we can do is start smoothing there. and we'll worry about the jaw later on. So for now, let's just keep going in here, and then here we can just go to, actually let's go to the head, and then we can smooth in there. So we have it there. So now we have something a bit smoother, and then you always go back to the initial one and then go skin mirror, and now should look much nicer. Obviously we still have the jaw area, but you can see here already it's looking nicer. And then one thing we can do, we can just still go further in there and maybe just check in here and keep smoothing a little bit. Just be careful. But in this case you can see I have all of them kind of checked, because at this point Maya should do a bit of a better job anyway. Something like this should be enough, and we have this, so that should be cool. But in general, be careful not to smooth with too many influences unselected, because it can get messy. So with that, let's just go to the jaw. So a few things that we want to do in there. So while it's slightly open, so let's just go here, and for the time being let's just go between the jaw and the head. That's all we want. And let's just, we're gonna be switching between the add and the smooth, so let's just have like something like 0.025, something like that, and then this brush that has a bit of a fade off, and then we can start. First of all, we're gonna be adding, so if you press Control before you click, it's gonna add the opposite of that. So if you have a small value but you press Control, it's gonna, you can see it says, so this is add and this is A inverse. So we can add all these. We're gonna be adding joints in here for the mouth, so we don't, I mean, we still care, but just so you know, we just want like a rough jaw movement anyway, because eventually we're gonna be replacing some of these influence by some of the mouth controls. So we now add a bit and we can start smoothing, and we want something organic, so let's just kind of do a little bit of smoothing in there. So we want a bit of the influence from the jaw here, so we're gonna be smoothing there, and then we also want a bit of the influence in there, so we keep smoothing a little bit in there. We have to be careful there because that's gonna be on the neck, so we may have to unlock the neck so we can keep carry on. So we go there and we keep smoothing. We smooth a bit more, so smooth, there's a lot, it's gonna be a lot of that. And here we do it as well. But like I said, we're gonna be replacing this with some mouth controls, so we just want, mainly what we want is like the on the jaw, so we're gonna be focusing on that a bit more. So we do this, and one thing that we can see here is that we want to add a little bit. Maybe we want to do something a bit bigger, so it adds a bit more. So we keep going. I'm assuming that's because it's on the neck, so let's just keep going. So we're gonna have to unlock a few of the joints on the neck, because obviously that kind of merges with the neck joints. So unfortunately we're gonna have to deal with a few influences at the time. So let's just check, let's do a mirror so we actually get, and always remember to go back to the 0 position, skin mirror, and we can go back to like this movement. And actually one thing that we actually want to do is kind of reduce a little bit, so maybe let's just add a bit of the neck influence to kind of remove some of that movement actually, and even possibly some of the neck one. That's what I don't like about what Maya does with the skinning, because it keeps like going into like different random joints that I don't like at all. So let's just keep going and check what's happening. So let's just add a little bit more there and smooth it. So what's happening there? And then add a bit more there. We don't want to add a whole lot, but we want to add a little bit. And then let's just keep smoothing a little bit there, so it has a nice transition, obviously. And again, let's go to 0 and skin mirror, and we go back to that. And obviously we just need to kind of smooth and fix the middle bit. Okay, so that's that. We keep smoothing. We want to like see some movement around here as well, because we want it to like feel organic. So as you can see, like when you open the mouth, there is some movement as well, roughly there. So we want to get some of that. So let's just continue with this, just trying to get something a bit nicer, something like this. Oh, where am I? Okay. So now we smooth there, and we keep smoothing in there. Cool. So we have these. So let's just see how it does. So yeah, I think this should be roughly okay. Obviously we don't want to have the jaw influence too much on the neck, because we don't want it to lose volume. So one thing that we have to do is check now that we have the skin, so we want to possibly smooth a little bit some of these areas. So let's see if it wants to do so. Let's unlock all that. So let's just go here, and when you see like some vertices doing a little bit of a nasty movement, we just, all of that, we're just gonna smooth it a little bit. So we have that, and also like going generally in here, just smooth a tiny bit. So that's why the colors are a bit more useful than just this, because you can see. Actually, let's just be careful with all these. We want to kind of smooth all that. We don't want any of that, so let's just reduce all that. So let's smooth all these so we get something nicer. So let's just check that you don't have like random influence where it shouldn't be. All these we can remove. Just be careful. Okay. So let's go back to 0 and skin mirror. Let's just save. And now we can check again. So it looks okay. And then, yeah, that should be fine. So let's do one thing further for the jaw. So I think we can still, let's just hide the actual joints and let's just try to add a little bit more there, just tiny bit. So just be careful not to go too crazy, but just tiny bit in there. So we get a bit more of a movement. See, something like this should be fine. So we have that, and then again, skin, mirror, skin weights. So yeah, that's it for the skinning of the main bits. So once you have that, obviously you go to edit keys, delete keys, and let's go to the options, and instead of selected you go to all and then delete keys, and you will get rid of everything, but you can still like use it and you can check it, just make sure that everything's working fine. We can still like go later on and clean up a little bit because we're going to be adding other pieces. So for now we just kind of want a blocking of the skinning, but because we're going to be adding controls for the ears, we're going to be adding controls for the mouth, different bits of the lips, and other bits and pieces. So we just want like a rough already working block skinning, and then we can always refine as we move along and we see issues. We can always refine. So that's more than good enough for now. So yeah, we're gonna stop here so you can save once you delete the skinning, and then see, for now we're just done with the main structure, and we'll just move on to the next bit.